I can't believe we've been drinking this the whole time. Hi everyone, and welcome to Freedom Lands. Today's project, a bit of DIY and a mod we've been thinking about for a while. We are going to install a reverse osmosis system into our Recon R4. We travel a lot off-grid and in remote areas, and the quality of the water varies quite dramatically from place to place. Especially in places where the main source of water is bore. There's a lot of minerals like calcium, magnesium, and iron that are present in the water. So we've always filtered our water through the best filters, which are the best when it comes to just filtering particles and things. And we normally put our van water through 2 of those. And yeah, so we'd never actually do unfiltered water in the van. But for drinking, it's still not filtering out enough of the minerals. And because of those elements, the water doesn't always taste great either. So with reverse osmosis, we'll be able to filter out quite a bit, hopefully, as per the specifications, up to 97–98% of some of those elements, and get really pure water while we're traveling off-grid. So what is a reverse osmosis system? Essentially, it is just a filter, but it's such a fine filter that it is small enough to actually filter out minerals. The difference between a normal filter like best filter and reverse osmosis is RO requires some pressure to push the water through a membrane very slowly so that all of the minerals and microparticles are filtered out. So what we bought and why? I went with one from Sentry Water Filters, and they were great to deal with, really quick delivery, and they answered a lot of my questions when I first asked them. And I got a kit that's kind of called a portable one. It's got 3 stages. You can get massive filters for big caravans. If you've got a big van, you could probably go next step up. But for us, small space, easy to manage and install. So we actually have a pre-filter here, so that it's to remove particles and bacteria. Then it goes through the actual reverse osmosis membrane. And to finalize, there is a re-alkalining filter because the water, once it's going through RO, loses some alkalinity, and this just returns it to a good pH level. As I mentioned, in RO systems, the water is pushed through a membrane very, very slowly. So it's not something that you can just turn the tap on and get a glass of water. You need to wait for it to drip through that filter. Now, the other thing to consider as well is the pump on the van. For this system specifically, it needed to be, I think it was a minimum of 40 psi pressure of the pump. The R4 comes with a pump that pumps out 50, so there's plenty of pressure to actually push it through. Another thing to consider is the pump actually switching on and off. Because of the very slow flow of the water, I think it will probably be kicking on and off quite a lot while it's pushing the water through. And that's why we've got a shut-off tap. So the idea, what I'm planning to do is just open it up, let it run until the tank is filled up, and then shut it off so that the pump is not working. We're going to install it under the sink here in this cavity. We normally have our pots and pans and things like that in there. So we might lose a little bit of space, but it's worth it. Now, I'm not a big fan of drilling holes and doing a permanent install until I know that things are working well. So I'm going to install it in the way that if something goes wrong or something doesn't work, I can remove it and just get everything back exactly as it was. So I'm going to try not to cut any pipes or anything like that at the moment. I'm going to disconnect some of the water pipes, and I'm going to install one of these diverter adapters to go to the RO system. I've bought a couple of extra adapters there, so this takes a standard 1/2 inch, and then I've got the extra John Guest connectors on each end so that they fit perfectly on the R4 water lines. And same thing with actually mounting the system. I'm going to do just a bit of a soft mount, something that strap it on so that it sits nice and snug for all the corrugations. And if it proves that it's working really well, maybe we'll do a more permanent sort of installation with brackets and things like that later on. So let's get cracking. That's our cold water there on the far side. This is the line that goes up to the ensuite tap. I'm just going to disconnect this joint gas connector, then insert the diverter, and I've got a bit of extra length of pipe. Hopefully that will just snap right in place. Oh, and I've just got a towel on there to just gush any drips of water. That's a bit stiff, just had to use the shifter to push that collar in. Yeah, but we've got it disconnected. No, it wasn't even much water in there. All right, so step one done. Now we're going to put this thing in. Yeah, I'm just going to snap it straight on. That's our little tap ready to go. And I'm going to just insert a bit of a length of pipe to connect it to the other end. All right, now as I said, I'm not going to do it as a permanent setup yet until I know it's working. And then when I'm ready, I'll just cut this a bit shorter so it's nice and inline, but I really want to test it and make sure everything is working first. So I'm going to just add a bit of an extra length of pipe and slot it straight into back where it originally came from. Just looked around. Not pretty, but it will do as a trial run. So I'm just going to attach the inlet hose into the diverter contraption that I've just created. Gonna love those easy fittings. And then we're going to have our inlet for the RO. Okay, and now we're going to feed the other end of this hose into the inlet. So I'm just going to place it at the far back at the moment, and then so inlet goes in here. Then we've got the wastewater, which I'll talk about in a little while. So this is going to go into a nice neat spot here. All right, and it's connected. And the other end goes into the produce outlet. And the final piece of the puzzle is the wastewater. One other thing to understand about reverse osmosis is it produced wastewater. So essentially what it does is it pushes the water through the membrane, but not all of it goes through. And essentially, if you want to call it dirty water, the leftover minerals and everything and a bit of water has to go the other way into wastewater. I think it's time to fire it up and give it a flush. For flushing, we need to keep it running for about 5 minutes. And we're going to flush straight into our dirty water container while checking for leaks. And we'll put both wastewater and good water into that tub. And it's time to give it a test. I'm going to slowly open the valve. Oh, okay. So we've got some carbon filters there. So the water is going to be a little bit black, and that's normal. That's the wastewater. And this is the actual clean water now. We'll leave that running for 5 minutes while checking for leaks. Okay, first experiment successful. So we've been running for 5 minutes and flushing the system, and no leaks so far. Next step, I'll get it strapped into the place with these straps and make sure it's nice and secure. So now that we've installed the system, how do we know it's working? This kettle has been used for 2 weeks since cleaning, using water before the reverse osmosis system. This water has already been through 2 best filters. Check this out. I can't believe we've been drinking this the whole time. And this is the same kettle after 2 weeks of using reverse osmosis water. But dirty kettle aside, I wanted a more scientific way of determining how effective this system is. So I bought this little device from Sentry Water Filters, and it's called a TDS meter. TDS stands for Total Dissolved Solids, and it literally measures how many particles are in water. Looks a little bit like a thermometer, and we're going to test the water before and after it's been through reverse osmosis. In the first glass, we have town water from a fairly major city on coastal WA, and it's already been through a best filter. When I first saw this measurement, I thought, oh, 144, that's not too bad. But if you have a look at this little symbol here, it actually says times 10. So it's literally off the scale. 1,440 milligrams per liter. Now, over the last couple of weeks of using this system, I've measured water from different locations, including some of the more remote places in Western Australia. And it's gone up as high as 2,500, which means 2.5 grams per liter. So that's huge. According to the manual and the water purity chart, anything over 300 is too high. And it'll cause issues like the sediment in the kettle, and my coffee machine will need descaling every couple of weeks. And yeah, just generally doesn't taste very great. In the second glass, we've got water that's just been through the reverse osmosis system. and we're getting a very nice 84. That's quite an improvement. Anything between 50 and 150 is perfect drinking water. But the proof of the water is in the drinking. How does it taste? Like delicious, clean water. Exactly what we wanted. So we've been using this system for a few weeks now, and it has been fantastic. So here are some of the things that I've changed since installation. First of all, I wasn't 100% happy with the efficiency and how much wastewater it's producing. So initially, I was getting around about a liter of pure water per 3.5 to 4 liters of wastewater, which is not ideal. So after speaking to the guys at Sentry Water Filters, I've replaced the water restrictor on the waistline to make it just slightly less restrictive and still get good pure water. And this way I've actually increased the efficiency quite a lot, and I'm only getting probably 2.5 to 3 liters of wastewater per liter of pure water. Speaking of wastewater, I've been trying to figure out how to best utilize it efficiently, because when you're off-grid, every liter counts. So I realized that I could actually recycle the wastewater and by putting it back into the camper tank, especially when I've got plenty of water still in the tank, because the amount of dissolved solids is quite minimal that I'm putting back into the tank. And either way, it's going to go through the reverse osmosis system when we are drinking it anyway. And once we start running low on water, I wouldn't be thinking about recycling it back into the tank. By that stage, we're getting ready to fill up the tanks with fresh water anyway. Another thing that I've changed since installing the system is added a way to operate it without going through the pump. So I've added some connectors so we can plug the system directly into a tap when we are at a fill-up point or in the caravan park. And that way we are not running our pump continuously, but using the pressure from the tap itself. The RO kit that I purchased included a pressurized holding tank. I was originally going to use the tank so that we could feed the filtered water into our 3-way Kamek water tap in the kitchen. But I've changed my mind for a number of reasons. We have limited space under the sink, and the only tank we could actually get in there is 5 liters. And that is not a lot of water for everyday usage. I found that making big batches of water, 10 or 20 liters at a time, is much more effective, and this way I'm only running the pump when I need it for a certain period of time, and then we're using the water for a few days in a row. And the other reason, when we're traveling, especially in summer, we like our water nice and cool. So we just fill up a big jug, put it in the fridge, and drink it out of there. So for these reasons, using the kitchen tap is actually not very practical. I hope you found this video helpful. If you enjoy this kind of content, traveling around Australia, living off-grid, breaking, fixing, and installing things, and just generally enjoying life on the road, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.